Hey y'all, Johnny Mullet here with another episode of the Skoolie Maintenance and Repair Series. Today we're going to talk about horsepower. We're going to talk about getting more power out of your bus. Now first off, I got to let you all know that you are driving a huge brick down the road. You're not going to really get the same kind of performance out of a bus as you are a light or medium duty truck or a car. So let's put that on the table first. It's never going to accelerate like a car. So right there. So today we're going to focus on pretty much all of the engines, but we're going to focus on the international versions the most. The T444E, which is a very, very popular engine found in school buses. There's also the DT466, and we're talking Cummins 5.9, Cummins 8.3, and Caterpillar engines. First off, with as far as doing anything with your bus, if you want to get more power out of it, the first thing you have to do is make sure the damn thing is maintained. All right, if your air filter's dirty, you're not going to get full performance out of it. If your oil is dirty, especially if you have a HUE injection system, you're not going to get the performance out of the bus that you want. So first things first, you got to start with your maintenance. Make sure your maintenance is caught up. Make sure all the maintenance is done and it's good to go. Otherwise, you're just wasting your time, because you don't want to bump horsepower up on an engine that hasn't been maintained or taken care of. A lot of the complaints I hear from, the Skoolie people is, my bus has no power. I mean, I smashed the pedal down to the floor and I just got to wait for it to go. And, the reason is most buses are pretty much detuned from the factory. They are designed and set up so they don't pretty much, self-destruct. Put it that way. They're made for, long miles and long service. And that's the reason that they are tuned the way they are. So let's kind of focus on the electronic controlled engines, DT466, that's the T444E, some of the Caterpillar engines. A lot of these have computer programs, and with the touch of a button, if you have the proper scan tool or the proper computer or software, you can change the horsepower on your bus with just the touch of a button. And we have a scanner here at the shop that I work at, and it's actually a snap-on scanner. It's a good one, but I was unable to change the parameters for the horsepower, but I was able to do a few other things. A lot of buses have a speed limiter or a rev limiter programmed, so you need to get a pen and write this stuff down, because if you can't find somebody who has the proper software or computer program to do this, your only choice is take it to a dealership. If you have a Caterpillar, it's got to go to a Cat shop, and International has got to go to an International dealer, and so forth. So I'm telling you, it's going to cost you money right off the bat. If you're going to go to a dealership and they're going to plug a scanner into it and change anything, it's going to cost a lot of money. I mean, right off the bat, it's going to be, $100 or more, but it's totally worth the investment. Our International dealer here locally near Erie, Pennsylvania, charges around, I think it's $100 an hour. So you figure, and they probably also have a scan fee. So, but like I said, it's going to be totally worth it, because, for instance, my bus, I didn't take it to a dealer. I was actually able to find someone that had the program and a laptop to do it. But for instance, my bus was rated at 190 horsepower, and with the touch of the button, it was bumped up to 210 horsepower. Now, you got to think, wow, that's 20 horsepower increase. That's like, what, 15% almost. That's pretty impressive, and that was by far the best modification I could have did to my bus to make it more powerful. So Caterpillar engines, International engines, if they're electronically controlled, maybe some Cummins, you are able to bump the horsepower right from a scan tool if you have the proper program, the proper software, which is pretty cool. So totally worth the investment. Another thing would be the T444E, and I think some DT466s, they have this thing called a It's actually like a wastegate on the turbo, but it's not a wastegate. It's a warm-up device. It's called an EBPV. Power stroke engines have them, especially in the northern regions. If you look at one of my previous videos in the maintenance and repair series, you will see where I deleted my DPVE system because basically the valve was stuck and my solenoid was leaking. And these are prone to leak oil, especially on the T444E. So go ahead and get that bypass kit that I showed you on a previous episode. Scroll back a few videos on the maintenance and repair series and you will see where I did the delete for the DPFEVE system. Regardless, I screwed that. It's too early in the morning. One of the biggest things you can do is your exhaust system. If you can open up your exhaust, that will really increase your power. And I'm not telling you to go cut your muffler off and run a straight pipe. They do make high flow mufflers, especially for diesel trucks. You know, there are a lot of diesel trucks out there run 4-inch exhaust or even 5-inch exhaust. Do your research and look for a high flow muffler. You can remove that huge muffler that's underneath your bus and put a much smaller high flow muffler on it, and it's probably not going to be much louder, especially if it's a turbocharged engine. Some people have even opened the size of their exhaust up. Some people have, 4-inch exhaust on their vehicle. You can open it up to a 5-inch exhaust. Find a place where you can set an adapter from your smaller size to a bigger size exhaust adapter. Bigger exhaust, more flow, more power. So exhaust is another important thing. Some guys run straight pipe, and I'm one of them, and I don't have no complaints. I think the bus sounds good. Previous video, you've heard what my bus sounds like with the straight pipe exhaust and with the wastegate delete. Pretty cool. There's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. If you feel that it's too loud, go get you a muffler that's going to be suitable for your bus. Of course, you're going to need the proper clamps and so forth. So there's another thing you can do to increase the horsepower on your bus. When I said write this stuff down, if you're going to a dealership to have your horsepower brought up from their computer, also write down these things other things that you want to do, like your cruise control. If your cruise control does not work, but you have buttons for it, that's probably because the cruise control is disabled from the factory. So write down cruise control enable. They can do that for you at the dealership. They can set your set speed and top speed on your cruise control, which is what I was able to do with my computer on my bus. I wasn't able to do the horsepower bump, but I was able to change that parameter. Another thing is the road speed limiter. A lot of buses have a road speed limiter that limits the speed at 55 or 60 or 65 miles an hour. You can also, write down, I want the speed limiter turned off or disabled. There's a RPM limiter. That one you might not want to mess with. I did turn mine off, but I'm careful by watching my RPMs on my dashboard not to exceed 2,700 RPMs, because 26, 27 is max for a lot of these engines, and you don't want to be pushing down the highway with your tachometer on 30. It's really not good for your diesel engine. So you want your horsepower bumped, write that down. You want your cruise control enabled if it's disabled. You want your road speed limiter disabled. Go ahead and leave the rev limiter in there. That's there for a reason, so you don't pretty much explode your engine, which is a good idea. So that's pretty much covering a lot of the International and Caterpillar. Very similar. You can have the horsepower bumped on a Caterpillar. You can, change out the exhaust. You can do certain modifications through the computer to give you more power. Cummins, on the other hand, like a 5.9, very, very popular engine, especially with the diesel pickup truck world. All you got to do is bump online and look at what these guys are doing. They have bigger turbo kits, bigger exhaust kits. There are things you can do with the fuel pump to turn the power up. There are so many things you can do with a Cummins to get you more power. So you can research those online and get that taken care of. The big Cummins, the 8.3, there is a few modifications you can do to that engine, but I think that engine is pretty much good to go the way it's set up. It is a very powerful engine. So those are some ideas on getting some more power out of your bus. I noticed the increase on every step I did to increase the horsepower on my bus, and it wasn't a huge, big difference for every step, but the horsepower bump with the computer was the biggest. I was very happy with that, and that was the best modification I could have did. If I had to pay a dealership to do what I had done, I would have done it, because it's totally worth it. So another thing is you got to think about top speed. A lot of your buses are geared a certain way where if you're cruising at 60 miles an hour, you're pretty much at your rev limiter right there, and you're geared out. I'm sorry, you're not going to go any faster. We took our T440E 545 equipped bus all the way across country and back at 62 miles an hour, because that's pretty much where I was geared out at 2600 RPM. But I was fine with that. I had no problem driving down the interstate at 62 miles an hour. I wasn't afraid of the other traffic or anything, and actually I felt comfortable at that speed. Going any faster in a school bus, you might be pushing the limits a little bit. If you really need to travel 70, 75 miles an hour, do your research before you buy your bus. Don't try to take an older bus that's not designed to go highway speeds, at 70 plus miles an hour, and try to make it do that. It's not really good for it. So, those are some things you got to consider. Another thing is tire size. A lot of buses are equipped with like a 10R22.5, very popular size tire. If you want to increase your top speed, say, my bus will go 62. If I go to a bigger tire size, like an 11R22.5, my top speed will increase by a few miles per hour, maybe, 5 or maybe 6. I don't know. I haven't verified it. I haven't tried it. But you got to think, when you run a taller tire on your bus, you're also going to lose a lot of your low end power that you just did with the computer and the exhaust and whatever modifications you've done to make your bus go, accelerate faster. So keep that in mind. Your taller tire will give you a taller or a higher top speed, but it may slow down your acceleration times, because basically the taller tire takes a longer time to make a revolution, and that's the way it goes. So if you bought a bus and you're not very happy with how it accelerates, or how it takes off, or what the speed is, there are things you can do to make it better. So like I said, if you got to call your Caterpillar dealer, your International dealer, or whoever to get the electronic part taken care of to bump the horsepower, totally go for it. And then, like I said, the exhaust modifications, like I said, a high flow muffler, that will really increase your speed and your acceleration and your performance on your bus without doing damage to the engine. So those are some things to consider to bumping the horsepower on your bus. If that's what you want to do, go for it. Otherwise, if you like it the way it is, or if you're just a recreational user, leave it the way it is. It's designed to not self-destruct, basically. So I want to thank you all for watching this episode of the Skoolie Maintenance and Repair Series. I hope you learned a little bit today. Do your research before you do any modifications like that, and hopefully it works out for you the way you want it to. Like I did with my T444E bus, I did the computer program. I had a friend help me do that. That was awesome. I did the muffler delete and basically ran a straight pipe, which that made a huge increase. That was awesome. And then also by eliminating that valve on my exhaust, that was also a great modification. As far as other things go, I mean, if you want to throw some money into it, like T444E, they offer, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 fuel injectors, and there's many other aftermarket products out there. You can run a larger turbocharger on it. There's many things you can do depending on how much money you want to throw at it. But remember, if you're geared out and your top speed is at a certain speed because of gearing, you're not going to go faster by giving it more horsepower. You're just going to accelerate at a better speed, which is the case of my bus. My bus was a turd. It was a terrible, slow turd when I first got it. I put it in drive, I mashed the accelerator to the floor, and just wait. It'll get there. Come on. You can do it. Hit a hill, forget it. After the modifications were done on my bus, I don't have to mash the pedal to the floor. I put the pedal down, she takes off, she goes. I'm not going to say it accelerates like a car, but it accelerates very well. And now it has no problem climbing hills. My bus used to struggle with the hills very bad. It would downshift a gear and it would be going slow, 35, miles an hour up a hill was terrible, and you got a line of traffic behind you. Now, my bus don't even kick down a gear. It maintains the speed. I can actually hear the turbocharger working because of the modifications done to my bus to give it more power. So, if you want more power out of your bus, do what you can. Like I said, the computer thing's a good thing. The exhaust is another good thing. Those are two things that'll give you more power out of your bus and better acceleration. But first, like I said, make sure your maintenance is caught up before you do the modifications to your bus. So, thank you all for watching this episode of Skoolie Maintenance and Repair Series. And we'll see you next time for another video. So, see you next time, guys.